Hi everyone, welcome back to Safe Space. My name is Buse and today I'm doing another solo episode just like the last one, and this is a special request from a special someone, that being my sister. She asked me a question when I did the poll on Instagram a while ago, a few weeks ago probably, maybe a month, and she asked the question, which will be today's topic as well. In your opinion, what is the most important personality trait or strength someone can have to tackle anything life throws at them? I mean, and that's a very loaded question because there isn't like one. I guess I did come up, I kind of did some thinking on my own, and I did come up with like one trait, I guess you could say, that anyone can have that will benefit them in terms of like tackling the challenges in their life. But I'll go more in depth about that as I start talking more about it. But for now, hopefully this episode is a good one. I'm actually looking forward to it because like I said, I did a lot of thinking about it, and I'm hoping that it helps my sister or anyone else that might be trying to reflect on their own challenges and trying to tackle certain things that are going on in their life. And also, just to add, this is not necessarily related to this topic, but soon I will have a new tripod, hopefully, because the one that I have is very small and it's not high enough to film at a specific angle. And it is a good one, but it's not a very high quality one, and it's not very tall. So, and also, as you can tell, I'm in a different place than I usually am, which this is my new room. I actually recently moved 2 weeks ago. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. And honestly, it's been nothing but amazing so far. But instead of keep on talking about random things, I'll just get into the topic now. And I'll just tackle everything on my list one by one. So first off, I have I'll go through the tips and tricks I have, and then I'll go at the end, I'll kind of tie it all together as to like what I think the best trait you can have is in terms of like tackling anything life throws at you, right? So the first thing that I wrote down is purposefully facing your fears can help with stress, anxiety, and the uncertainties of your future. So I think a lot of times in life, and this has been my experience too, the more anxiety we have, the more fear we have around a specific person, around a specific situation, event, whatever it is in our life, we tend to just like avoid it until we can't avoid it any longer, right? And from my own experience, I've learned that's like the worst thing that you can do, especially for the fears that you have, especially for like deep-rooted issues and fears that you have like in your subconscious mind that you just like packed down over the years, and now you're trying to like face that fear that you haven't faced since you were a child, or that you haven't faced since you were like a teenager, or when you were like a little bit younger than when you are where you are right now. And that does nothing but add more anxiety and fear on top of that thing that, on top of the fear that you already had, right? And I think for me, like for example, at work or just in general in life too, I'll do this with my friends or people around me that I care about. I'll purposefully like ask them for feedback, or just I'll purposely ask them for something that they can tell me that I might have done wrong, or something that I can improve on, so that I am not leading my life through without a specific direction, I guess, let's just say. Because in terms of like facing your fears and anxieties, right, a lot of times those fears could come in the form of like fears around, I'm just going to give an example, but like fears around like relationships, or fears around like not being good enough at your work, or I'm trying to think of examples that might be relatable for other people too, instead of just giving random examples that I have experienced like on my own. But purposefully facing those fears and anxieties like step by step. It doesn't have to mean that you have to like take a leap and just like go out there and do everything and anything and everything that you were like always scared of. I think that might create even more anxiety and more uncertainty in your life, and that doesn't really give you a specific direction either, right? I think pinpointing, like actually sitting down and pinpointing the fears and anxieties that you have, and then writing down steps that you would want to take to face those fears and like how you're going to go about it, and like being prepared for the best and the worst outcome, or a neutral outcome, right? That's what I do when I am really like in a lot of doubt and anxiety and fear around a specific event or specific thing in my life. I'll purposefully sit down and try to think about like what is it about this specific thing that is scaring me the most. And that usually, even just the thought of it, even just like sitting there and like listening to myself will a lot of times like ease my anxiety or ease my fears around that specific thing. Doesn't mean it just goes away and I never faced it, but once I do face that fear and like figure out what it actually is, then I will take steps to like face that fear head on, instead of like letting it grow, letting it fester. Because a lot of times our fears are it's inevitable not to ever have any fears, but a lot of times the fears are also just conditioning around things that we've learned or heard about from other people, and that's not always helpful in terms of like you having your own growth and like facing your own challenges and tackling certain challenges that you have in your life, right? With that said, I'm gonna go on to the next like tip or thought that I had that helped me come up with this one trait, right? And the second one was being curious about the things you're passionate about, but also about the areas you struggle in. I'm trying to remember exactly what I meant by writing that down, but I will say, a lot of times we will focus on things that we're passionate about. Like, I don't know, like some people love playing video games. Let's say like they want to be a big gamer, right? I don't know where that example came from because I don't play video games, but let's say like that's their passion. They'll do anything and everything to learn about it and expand their skills and become like the best at it. But a lot of times people won't do the same thing about the things that they struggle in. They won't go head on and try to like learn as much as they can, learn and face like the challenges that might come up, and because they already struggle with it, they have this stigma or idea around that specific event or thing that they don't want to face, and now they don't, like, because they already struggle in it, they know it's going to be challenging because they don't enjoy being around it or doing it, that they completely avoid it. And it kind of ties back to what I said earlier with like purposefully facing your fears, but also not just like with action, right? But I think being curious about things that you struggle with will also help you keep an open mind about the solutions that you're gonna find through your thought process. Sometimes the answers come to us in the most unexpected times and in the most unexpected like conversations we might have with other people. But it's more, I guess it's very important to not just be curious about the areas that you are very passionate about and things that like you really enjoy doing and you're really good at, but also sitting down with yourself and just asking questions and asking, even not just to yourself, but to other people, like for help or even just feedback on like how you can improve, what it is that you might be doing wrong, or what it is that is making you struggle in this area more. And I think I will add this one other thing in here. A lot of times, and I've done this and I still do this, and I don't know if it's helpful or not, but a lot of people will avoid asking for help because they were conditioned so much since their childhood and since they were younger, that when they're struggling or when they have something going on, that they can't ask for help. And I'm not the one to give that advice, but I would give that same advice to myself only because, like I think I struggle in that area. Like I don't necessarily enjoy asking for help, especially in my most vulnerable moments. And when I do, I feel even more vulnerable for asking for help when I was vulnerable. And I sometimes tend to even like avoid people that I was vulnerable with, but that I wasn't super close to, because it makes me so uncomfortable. I guess that's an area, like, for example, that I struggle in, right? And not to say that I can't ever overcome that, but I think I have learned that for me, it takes time for me to be vulnerable. It takes time for me to be open with people and accept and understand that, like, you know, not everyone is has bad intentions, and not everyone is going to do you wrong. And I guess that's also other experiences that I've had in my life that makes me think that way. But just moving on from that last tip, maybe onto the new one from that example, right? The next tip I had, or trick, would be being in tune with yourself and following your intuition. There's no one-size-fits-all solution to anything in life. I say this because for me, I think I have learned to best take care of myself and like do things that really serve me through sitting with myself and journaling and meditating and just feeling my emotions and just like accepting that I am not just the body that I am. There's more to us as humans than is in the physical form. There is your intuition, the gut instincts that you have, right? That's really important to follow in life, because without that, you a lot of times will get steered in directions that you may not want to go in, and then you'll find yourself feeling really lost. And I recently experienced this. Not because I didn't follow my intuition, but because there were other things going on in my life that prevented me from listening to my intuition. And I had to get back to that, and I had to get back to like, okay, like what can I do for myself to improve, not even improve, but let's just say to get back in touch with my own intuition, to get back in touch with my true self, and like who I am, who I want to be, what I want to be, projecting onto the world, and who I am deep down, and like what people will see. And that is not very easy work. It takes a lot of time and practice, and it's even a lot of like pain that you go through, just trying to find that inner instinct that you have in order to like give you direction, right? It's definitely not easy, and for me it comes in the form of like journaling and meditating and just sitting with myself, even if it's just going out somewhere, getting a cup of coffee, and just sitting down with myself and like listening to myself, listening to my thoughts. And a lot of times, like for me, I'll give an example. Not that everyone is like this way or everyone has experienced this, but for me, my experience, and some other people that I know have experienced this as well, is that a lot of times growing up, we may not have people around us that are willing to like listen to our every thought and be attentive to every need that we have. And that kind of creates this belief within yourself, let's just say, that you also avoid listening to your own thoughts. You avoid listening to your own instincts and your own intuition. And a lot of times it's so painful to get back to that place of where your intuition is, where your gut instincts are, that you kind of have to shed that like conditioning that you have around like listening to your intuition and inner guidance. And like I said, it's definitely not easy, and I've had my own challenges with this area in my life recently. But just even like yesterday, I kind of did some things that I did as a child that I really enjoyed, and I think that's where a lot of people need to like connect back to in order to find where their intuition is. And that doesn't look very nice all the time. You may go through some painful moments trying, recollecting the things that you did enjoy, but there are also things that you didn't enjoy in your childhood. But getting back to that inner child means you have to embrace all of yourself, all of your good and bad experiences and the challenging moments that you had growing up. And I think your intuition lies within like your inner child and your true self, which is like before all that conditioning happened in your life. And I'm just talking through my own experiences and not necessarily like what I've heard from other people, but through, like I said, meditation and journaling and doing other practices, even like dancing. I think I've mentioned that a few times in some of my other videos as well. Dancing has been such a freeing experience for me growing up that like now every time I'm by myself, I let myself like move my body and dance to whatever music I'm in the mood for, but like just dancing and letting my body move to the music and kind of enjoying it, because I think I really enjoyed doing that as a child, but I wasn't always allowed to, or I wasn't always encouraged to. And that has helped me like connect back to that part of myself, that my intuition, my inner child, that naturally guides me in the right direction of like where I'm supposed to go. And with that last point, I'll just move on to the last two. So the next one is, you have to protect your own energy in your best interest. And I guess this is the next step from like after you connect with your intuition, right? Like learning to set your own boundaries and protecting your energy in your best interest, because no matter how much people care about us, even the people that love us the most, that you trust the most, at times there will be moments that everyone might be thinking of themselves and how to protect themselves and how to take care of themselves. And sometimes that can look like it's painful, like it can look like it's intentionally done towards you in a bad way, but it's not always like that, especially with people that you may like trust and that you love and that you care about. But at the end of the day, I truly believe as an adult, especially as an adult, as you get older, it's best to protect your own energy and it's best to protect your own best interest, because, you know, as a kid, if you had good, caring, nurturing parents, they would do that naturally, right? They would do that for you. They would set boundaries around certain things. They would have your best interest at heart. But as an adult, there's no one that will do that for you, regardless of how much they love you or how much they care about you. There will be times they fall short. But that's where you come in. Like, you have to have your own boundaries and protect your own energy so that you're not impacted by or feeling lost in life or impacted by the challenges that you face eventually, right? And I think I'll go on to the next point and then I'll tie it all together and then kind of reveal that one personality trait or strength that I think is most helpful in terms of tackling anything that life throws at you. So the last point that I have is master your own body physically, mentally, and emotionally. And I think this kind of ties into all the other points that I mentioned as well. So in terms of like mastering your own body physically, mentally, and emotionally, spiritually, whatever, you can add more things in there as well. But in order to be able to do that, you need to know yourself. Like, I don't know what the right way to say it is, like from top to bottom, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, you have to know yourself to the fullest. You have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself physically, having boundaries around how much time you might spend with someone, how close you are with people, like physically close, or like who you shake hands with or who you hug. Like physical boundaries are so important because, and I don't think it's something that we somewhat like focus on a lot, especially where we are in society today, but I think it is important to know that you have your own boundaries and it doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And that goes on to, like, they say the same thing about mentally and emotionally. There are certain times in our lives where we're going through certain things and you may not be able to take on certain things mentally or emotionally or spiritually. Whatever that looks like, you have to decide that for yourself and kind of set boundaries around it. And if people respect it, that's great. If not, then you have to take steps in order to like either enforce your boundaries with certain people, or just remove yourself from the situation when you know that your boundaries will not be respected. But mastering your own body in every way, like mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, in every way possible, spiritually, you have to do that in order to be able to tackle the challenges in your life. Because at the end of the day, like I said, you as an adult, you need to take care of yourself, and there's going to be no one that's going to be coming in and saying, oh, let me protect Buse because, you know, like, she doesn't realize this is not good for her. But like, I need to know that, right? I need to know myself. And so in order to protect myself, in order to have my best, you know, in order to protect myself and have a good direction in life, and continue in that direction with little challenges as possible, I need to be able to master my own mind and body and soul, and in every way, right? And tying all that together, hopefully that was an extensive explanation of, you know, what I think, let me read the question again, and then I'll kind of tie it all together. So the question was, in your opinion, what is the most important personality trait, strength? Let me read it again, I'm sorry. In your opinion, what is the most important personality trait or strength someone can have to tackle anything life throws at them? And the trait that I mentioned was self-awareness. And other people might have a different opinion, or they might think there might be different traits that will help people get through anything they face in their life. But for me, it's always been self-awareness, because without knowing what you want, what direction you want to go in, and who you are, what your needs are around, you know, like physically, mentally, emotionally, in every way, in order to be able to face challenges. Because the thing is, we can't control anything outside of ourselves, outside of our mind, our thoughts, our own actions, our own emotions. We can't control other people's actions, the circumstances that come into our lives. And in order to be able to face those challenges, we need to be aware of ourselves in moments of struggle, in order to be able to meet our own needs, so we can get through that struggle that we're facing. And that doesn't mean every struggle is going to look the same, or it's going to have the same intensity, but you will, through experience, I have learned that like, as you get through life, the experiences you have build your confidence, but you need to be able to face those like fears and anxieties that you have, and you need to be able to keep an open mind and be curious about the struggles that you have in your life, and not just say like, that's just an area I'm not good at, and just, you know, close that part of your chapter, or like part of that, or let's just say or just like avoiding that specific situation, right? And like at the end, I kind of mentioned like how you should be in tune with your intuition, and I also said you need to protect your own energy and then master your own body. So like, tying it all together, hopefully this all makes sense. But I think self-awareness is like the biggest and the most important trait that you can have in order to face the challenges that you face, because without self-awareness, you're also not being honest with yourself or other people, and without self-awareness, you're not able to like accept what is, and then take steps to find a solution to the problem or the challenge that you're facing. So at the end of the day, I think for me, it's always been self-awareness through like many challenges that I've had. I mean, yes, I'm not that old, but I think regardless of what age you are at, everybody has challenges that they're facing in their life, and not everyone's able to freely express them. Not everyone's able to find an answer right away, and neither do I. Sometimes I go months or years without finding an answer. But it's important to know that with self-awareness and with like fulfilling my own needs, I have come along this far, I guess, if that makes sense. And I've made it this far, and I keep growing my confidence, and I keep you know, building myself up and strengthening my own like personality and who I am and my character and how I show up in people's lives and how I show up for myself. And that's why I think the boundaries are so important. And with that said, I'm just gonna try to close it out because I think it's been a long enough video. Hopefully it was informative and like not just informative but also helpful in terms of like how I think and what I believe to be the most important trait is in order to tackle like life's challenges. But I will say thank you for watching, thank you for joining. If you're watching from YouTube, if you could subscribe and like this video and comment any ideas that you might have, any feedback that you might have, I would love to read them. And if you're watching from Spotify, thank you again for listening, and I will close it out here and I'll see you next time. Bye.